Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? This is Glen, the Hustle B. Welcome to the Seller Club podcast. Let's drop that beat. Yo, what is up, guy and gal? How are you doing, Anna and Glen?
I like that.
Yes.
Hey, guess what?
What?
Our banger giveaway that we've been talking about is already live. So
huge giveaway.
Yeah, exactly.
Biggest giveaway ever so far.
Ever so far we've ever seen. Over $3,000 at least. We're giving away a MacBook Pro, not no basic, Pro. For a pro seller. Like
Pro stands for professional.
Professional, right. And MacBook Air. MacBook Air is super powerful now. They have the M1 chip. So it's pretty good. Even edit videos. And a Pro beast of a computer. So if you're listening to this right
iPad
now,
Air, Ken?
iPad Air. What did I say?
You said MacBook Air.
Oh,
a
iPad
MacBook
Air,
Pro
iPad Air.
and an iPad Air.
Thank you for the correction.
You're
Anna.
welcome. Always happy to correct you.
Yes. It's like, on the daily, right?
Should get like 1,000 listings done with this.
Yes.
Per
so
day.
many listings.
Per day.
Exactly.
But if you're listening to this right now and it's not May 31st yet, you have a chance to win this. So go to our Instagram, Seller Club Podcast, and follow all the rules. Very simple. So, yep, I guess that's a really banger intro, Anna, right?
Totally. Love it. I'm so excited to see who's going to win these amazing items. But yeah, just go to our post about it and you can see all the rules and stuff there. And it's going to be so fun. I love giving away stuff. Don't you guys?
Yeah,
100%.
Kind of, because I can't win.
I know. So sad.
It's better to give than to receive, right? And if we didn't
perfect.
mention it, this is our collaboration giveaway with eBay. So that's why it's so awesome, because eBay wants to help us equip sellers with like the best possible tools.
Exactly. There is no switch.
And we love eBay.
Broken. Yeah.
We do.
Exactly.
We do. In fact, we love eBay so much. No, I mean, we do. But Ken and I have been very busy doing some official eBay business, which we talked about a little bit in our last episode, but there's really just so much more to it, and we wanted to bring you guys the full scoop of what we've been doing, running hither and thither in Washington DC recently.
I mean, that's the reason why I had suit colored,
Looking sharp.
long sleeve.
That's right. You
So,
never catch the bee in a
Jordans.
suit.
Yeah, so I had to be Mr. B for a while, but
Mr.
this is
B.
all for a good cause.
Corporate
We'll tell you
B.
more about- Yeah, not corporate, Glen. Come on, we don't like corporate crap.
You're in your best behavior, B.
Okay, best behavior B.
Congressional
He cleans up
maybe
nice.
possibly, maybe
does.
possibly just because I could get really in trouble if I start goofing off.
Government B.
Yes.
Yeah. God,
I like
okay.
that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a good, wearing a suit's a great reminder to like be serious.
Yeah.
So let's talk about DC. Let's talk about small business. Let's
Yes.
talk about eBay Main Street. What is eBay Main Street before we start?
Great question. Well, eBay Main Street is basically a part of eBay. It's a website, but it's a part of eBay internally, like a department that is concerned entirely with government relations and how different legislation on the state and federal levels affect small businesses on eBay, aka the sellers. So it's another part of eBay that's very seller focused, and a lot of people don't even know it exists. But you can, connect with eBay Main Street if you're interested to know, even if you just want to know, like,
What's going on, right?
Yeah, what's
What are
going
the
on
issues or the,
on Capitol Hill,
yeah.
right? And also, like, if you want to sign a petition about one of those things, or if you want to get involved somehow, eBay Main Street's like the landing, like the homepage for you to go and get involved. And they pretty recently also started having an Instagram handle that's eBay Main Street. So you can also keep up to date with things there.
Yeah, I think for me is what I kind of like summed up is like, as business owners, especially in the online space, right? Like this is kind of like a newer way to sell in a way, right? Online's been there for a long time, but
A minute.
But over time there has been different laws and policies that are being created that could benefit or put us in a disadvantage or put us in a really tough spot. So I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to work with eBay Main Street. It's because of what I've always said. I want a representation of us sellers in this closed door meetings or in this different departments where we could truly voice out our concerns. So I felt like it was kind of nerve wracking, but we can get into it a little bit more. But I think we did a pretty decent job for rookies. So me and Anna were rookies in DC in this trip.
Yeah, we totally were. And you know, our experience with eBay Main Street has been pretty recent. I first heard about it the first year in, I guess, 2022 when I was participating in some of the eBay Open content is when I first heard about it from some of the employees who work in that department. And it was really interesting to me, but I have never been a person who just loves politics. And so I at first, my knee jerk reaction was oh, this is probably not for me. I would probably, zone out and not be able to keep track of everything, or I wouldn't be interested, or it's just frustrating to me a lot what happens in politics. And so I didn't think it was going to be for me, but really it turned out to be something I was very interested in because of the impact on my business and on everybody's business, right? Like you said, Ken, this is a relatively new way of doing commerce, such that there is still a bunch of legislation that is being created around it all the time. And, a lot of it is efforts to regulate things or make sure that things are safe or make sure that things are functional in one way, but there's always other ramifications. And, that's where it's really important for each one of us to have a voice and speak up about how it's going to impact us. So that's really what eBay Main Street tries to do, is kind of be that connection for sellers to have their voice heard and be able to understand, even just for our benefit, to understand how things are going to impact us potentially, which I really appreciate, because I will readily admit I would never stay informed about all of this stuff on my own. I would not follow it. I would just be whatever, hopefully it will work out, which is not a good approach. But that's kind of the easier way to do things when you feel you don't have any agency, right? And it turns out that we actually do have a lot of agency thanks to this department.
We do have a voice.
We do.
So did you have, you could just talk about anything, I guess, on your mind that had to do with your business, or were there several meetings and things you had to go through, or how did that work?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think during this trip, there was, I think, 3 things that we were really trying to kind of make our voice heard. I think, we can go a little bit more into it.
Taxes has to be one of them.
So you nailed that. It's that 1099K threshold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So from 20,000 to 600. So one of the things that I learned that because they've lowered it so much, there's so much reporting that has to happen. And obviously, one of the things is when you're starting as far as 1099K is that's kind of scary, right? That's an unknown territory for a side hustler when you're beginning. But when I started, it was 20K. So I was man, if I made 19,000, something like that, right? It's when you make that amount of money, it's it's a really plausible side business, right? And it's a good chunk of money. But to bring it down to 600, it's if I was just a kind of a hobby seller and I sold shoes that my parents gave me and a jacket, and next thing you know I get a 1099K, it's kind of what do I do, right? And a lot of that too puts a lot of burden in as a new seller, right? Or more a fear of wait, you're making $600, you got to start thinking about taxes. And at that point,
that's 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. I mean, Jordans, that can go quick.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah, so I think that was the thing that we were kind of really getting our voice heard to talk to this policymaker. Look, 600 is too small, and and we're really trying to find a in a way like a give and take kind of thing. And we've heard different figures. We've heard 5,000. We've heard 10,000, and and at the end of the day, the best thing that we can do is like really kind of like share our story and how we got started. That if it was 600 to begin with, I probably would have kind of like backed off a little bit. I was like, oh no, I don't want to deal with taxes off the bat, right? Like, that's not even a 1 month sale if you're really trying to get a business going already.
Well, and eBay loves to talk about the accidental entrepreneur, and they didn't invent that term on the front end. They observed the way that so many sellers end up in business, and so many of those accidental entrepreneurs would maybe on purpose not be entrepreneurs, right? If they knew, oh, well, as soon as I make $600, I basically have to, or $600 or one transaction, right? So it's like
one transaction.
At that point, eBay would have to issue a 1099K to that seller. And it's almost like, okay, after your first $600, you got to decide, is this a business or not? Like, are you serious or not? Are you gonna, are you an entrepreneur or not? And most of us were not even thinking, we didn't even know how to think about ourselves or our business when we made our first $600. So it's just,
talk about the other one, Anna, the cool act, online act, something like that. Because that was number one. 1099 was one. Cool is number two.
Yeah, so there were three like main issues that we were discussing with legislators, and then we should also talk about just like what actually happened on this trip, like start to finish, like what was the process like. So
Jamie,
it was really
awards.
Interesting.
There's a lot going on.
No, we'll talk about it after we tell them why. What was the three things?
Definitely.
We'll talk about something juicy.
So 1099K is the one Ken just talked about, which that we just explained it, but that issue's been off and on going on for years, right? This is another one, the COOL Act, so it's the country of origin labeling. And basically, from our perspective as sellers and like small business owners, the difficult thing for this would be that we'd be required to add the country of origin to all of our new items. And so, especially concerning for people who sell things that are new with tags, right? Because I think used items are excluded from that one. But
use is not included yet.
But even if you have something that's new with tags, like how are you supposed to know? Like unless the tag says the country of origin, which many times it does not, depending on
so
that's the product. It just isn't really practical. And really, they want a more transparent marketplace, more transparency about products like on the marketplace, any marketplace online, which is fair, but like that should come way earlier in the process, like when those things are imported, right? Like how
it should be the manufacturer's job. It's not the seller's job. Imagine all of us having to tag made in somewhat, right? Like imagine Foot Locker has to do that. Everybody has to do that. Like that's a lot of paper.
Like practically speaking, what would happen? People would fill in whatever because they want to still list their thing, so it wouldn't be accurate anyway, or that would just deter a bunch of people if there are huge consequences for not. That's the other thing. You could be fined up to $50,000 or something for like not labeling it or labeling it wrong.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
now I'm gonna be like, now we're just gonna be accusing people. It's like this guy did sit, and the next thing you know,
that wasn't made in Taiwan.
Yeah. Now there's.
Yeah, and so like practically, it'd be really hard to implement it well in a way that would even start to address what they're trying to address with it. But here's the thing: we went in and talked to all of these policymakers while this stuff is actively being worked on. So we're not reactively, trying to get something rolled back that's already been signed into law. It's like, hey,
it's getting through the process, right? They're writing it in or trying to get it passed.
In some cases, like suggesting a revision that would actually resolve most of the problematic parts of how it's worded, so that we don't have all this unnecessary, like difficult stuff that comes with implementing it. So anyway, that's the second one, the COOL Act. And then the big one that we were talking about, was the Shop Safe Act.
Shop Safe, right?
Which is supposed to, the effort is aimed at reducing counterfeit items across the board in online marketplaces. However, it's very complicated.
It's the crazy part is marketplaces are gonna be federally what's that? They have to impose the 3-strike rule. So we've heard about this Vero strike, right? And those things can be reversed. Those things can be contested.
Right. Like when a brand pulls down your listing for intellectual property reasons. They don't want you to use
So when brand reports your listing now, apparently, we really didn't get into the fine details, but if your item gets reported by a brand and they could just say it's fake, that's 1 strike.
But they don't have to prove that it's fake.
What?
And they also don't have to respond to you if you are appealing, like basically saying, hey,
they can, but they're going to give you the runaround, right? They're going to give you the runaround.
But they're not legally required to respond.
Something,
Yeah.
And or at that point, you probably have to get representation, right? Like, it's not like you can just do it yourself.
Yeah.
So 3-strike rule, I think, is the heaviest. And then the marketplace has to kick you out, or else they're gonna get sued by brands.
Oh man!
So it's kind of like pitting a marketplace against a seller, right? Like, okay, you love your seller, but if we report your seller, you gotta kick him out. So that was wild. And really like getting deeper into it, but Anna can expound it more. But the thing that was crazy is, you know how like certain brands don't want you to sell their product
I know,
online,
exactly.
right?
That was the first thing I thought about.
Glen's like, I know all about that.
They can use you're selling fakes to literally like scare the crap out of you or like choke you out. And it's like, oh crap, like I already listed 1 of this brand and I have 5 more. Yeah. That would literally freeze you, right?
They could take down 3 of your listings within 30 seconds and take you off of online selling indefinitely.
Isn't that wild?
Like, that is so crazy. Yeah, so, but that's just like, that is because of the way that the current proposal or whatever is written. And so, something that I know that I was emphasizing in my meetings was like, can we please reconsider this whole 3 strikes rule, or at least put in some kind of appeal process, or it's so severe. And the way that it would just devastate small businesses like ours, who we are not counterfeiters, like we are not trying to counterfeit anything. And if somehow an actual counterfeit made it into any one of our stores, that's only because we've been a victim of counterfeiting. So why are we being punished for that, So anyway, of course, all of us should be making our best efforts to never put anything that's counterfeit on any platform. But yeah, just the severity of the 3 strikes part of the ShopSafe bill is what was the most scary. And there are some other big issues with it, but mainly, at a high level, the ShopSafe Act just would like allow these brands that already have so much power to just shut down sellers, like small sellers, instantly almost, with no recourse for the seller. And that's just not doable for us, right? Like they could, like you said, Ken, they could use that and just take us out, and they wouldn't be, no one would challenge them about it. Yeah. So there would be no reason. They wouldn't have to prove that their accusations were correct either. So
yeah, and like just the severity of the whole issues, right? All 3 of these that we're trying to bring up and try to really share our story. That like literally, I was sharing my story and I said like like counterfeits in my category, is far in between it already because of the authenticity guarantee. And most of those products are going to be verified. So brands saying that there's counterfeits in the platform is doing things to prevent
a lot of things.
Yeah,
I mean, eBay as a platform is doing perhaps the most, in my opinion, of any platform that I know of, trying to prevent it from being a problem, trying to mitigate it as much as possible within reason, without just shutting out their sellers. But Yeah, so if any of this sounds really like scary to anybody,
it is scary.
It is scary, but only if it just is allowed to run rampant. And the really wonderful thing is that, you know, me and Ken and 19 other sellers got to go talk in person to policymakers about this stuff in the process and help them understand like our perspective on how this would affect our business. And it's really powerful because they actually listen. And like most of the people that we talk to have never run a small business at all. And certainly have never like had an eBay store. Like actually a few did, which was really cool. But most of them, you know, that's just not their world. That's not their wheelhouse. They can't imagine. They don't know what they don't know. And so they can't imagine how that would trickle down and affect us unless we tell them. And that's why it's so awesome that we actually get the opportunity to tell them. Because once they understand, like, wow, you know, we're all there talking to our policymakers. We're their constituent. And we're like, yo, if you vote for this in its current format anyway, it's going to like literally shut down my business. Yeah. And they don't want to do that to you. No. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I had my, you know, best outfit on, you know, suit jacket and, you know, like dress pants. They be looking at me and was like, this guy can't be a counterfeiter. You know, like, you know, like that's what they first saw. It's like, this guy's legit.
He can't, he won't.
Yeah,
he won't.
Yeah,
he's not trying to.
Yeah, so Glenn, ask us the juicy questions that you want to ask us.
The juicy questions. Well, I don't even know. Is there things that you can or cannot discuss?
I guess we'll tell you if we run into them. But.
I mean,
let's see how good of an interviewer this guy is.
Well, I don't even know what I could or couldn't talk about. So that's why I think the main things are those three issues because that's pretty much what I think what people want to know. And I think you guys covered those, you know, to the best of your ability. I think the counterfeit one is, or the shop safe, I think is really, really important.
That's
I think
the biggest one right now, I think. And that's, in my opinion.
That's kind of tough because in my, like, let's say like the sports stuff that I sell, man, across all platforms I see fakes daily.
Yeah.
And I like what Anna said about the appeal process. Like, I wonder how much, like, years that you've been on the platform or feedback or, like, could that come into play?
Your good record, right? You're a good record. Right?
I mean, if you're a legit seller trying to do these things, I would think that would come into play. I would hope it would come into play to help you out. I mean, if that's the case to where, like Ken said, if brands just want to eliminate you, that's bad for eBay because they need sellers. Right? Like, and if you're banning legit ones because they don't want you selling a certain brand, that's a lose-lose for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, like this would apply to sellers on like any platform. This is not directed at eBay sellers. eBay is just the one who's trying to like do something about it and brings in the sellers because they understand like we're the ones who are going to be like slammed by this if it happens.
Well, I think one of the things that we can say is we can pretty much tell you like what we kind of did, right? Like how our day went. So
how on earth did we find ourselves in this situation?
Right. So it was a 2-day event, right? It's a 2-day event. So we flew in the night before. Me and Anna flew in earlier and had some ramen and worked on some seller club stuff. So always gotta have good food.
Walked over to the White House.
Oh,
casual.
Yeah. Anna gave me a tour. We walked for 4 or 5 miles, Glenn.
We walked 5 miles.
Yeah,
getting those steps in.
Yeah, and she was explaining to me.
I gave him my 8th grade Washington D.C. tour.
Yeah, so I had a VIP tour.
We went to Ford's Theater. We went to a few monuments.
Yeah. We saw the IRS. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if I got any issues, I know where it's at. I'm just
oh, they know where you're at too.
Oh yeah.
You know it. You know
the FBI.
Yeah.
FBI. We saw the building of commerce. Commerce building.
Yeah,
which was really
Department
big.
of Commerce. It was epic.
Yeah.
There were like so many doors into Department of Commerce, and every one of them had just a banger quote right over the threshold. It was so cool.
So basically the first day, you know, we had to wake up early. We had to dress nice. You know, I got my suit and dress pants on. I didn't wear a tie. Thai is where I draw a line. I was like, I can't. But basically, everybody, you know, we met everybody. One thing that really like kind of like made me realize that this thing is really, really important. I know it was important, but like sitting down in a round table, Glenn, you had assigned seating, so you cannot be like hustle be just roaming around. This is where you sit, you stay put.
That's right. No winging it.
Yeah, we had a group, right? So you were like pretty much divided to different states. So Ohio, I was with California. Okay. So there were 3 of us sellers. So Anna was what table were you on?
I was with Pennsylvania and Louisiana. So I had Linda from Linda's Stuff, famously of eBay Live, Linda's Stuff.
Yeah.
And this wonderful seller named Barbara from Louisiana. So, and we actually were kind of had 2 teams at our table. And
that's true.
When I say team, I mean it was sellers plus a consultant who is like an expert on the policy.
Yeah,
they're the ones who get us the meetings with our policymakers. They like work on Capitol Hill all the time, and they're basically like our guide.
Yeah, they pretty much know where everything's at.
Yeah,
like
they get us from
Capitol Hill
time
related or something like that, like law and everything like that.
Make the introductions.
So I was like,
they were great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, who are these people? Because they all had like the blue legit suits and neckties. I was like, oh, this is real, right? And then they start talking, and I was like, can I get a copy of the brief? Because I was like,
oh my gosh. By the way, we were given a copy of the brief in advance. But also, this was briefing day. So
briefing day. Yeah,
we did get written briefs about, you know, a lot of details about the whole process of what we were gonna do.
They did. I was the reason why it's not eBay's fault. I was an add-on.
Ken was a last-minute addition.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't get
minute.
to attend the meetings prior and everything like that. But I was pretty much the most. I mean, unprepared pretty much. So I got in there. It's like, I'm just like, oh.
Well, they really put us in a no-lose situation because we're the sellers. Our job is to tell our story.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to like minimally understand like what's going on with the legislation, which we did. But we had a great support team around us the whole time. So if we ever didn't know how to answer something or had a question, like we literally are surrounded by experts to just show up and tell our story to our particular policymakers.
That was a full day of briefing, and we had some different people from the government to present certain things that they were working on, certain programs. You know, people from the White House, and then people from the Small Business Administration, SBA, right? This is pretty much what we are under. So those were things were pretty cool, and I think you know, it's kind of just like, I mean, if you think about the whole scale of things, there's just so much information.
Yeah.
After that, bro, I was like, I don't even know, Anna, I don't know what we did after that. I can't recall.
I know.
What did we do?
Our brains were very tired.
I bet.
I think we went back to our hotel rooms for like a little while, and then we all met up and walked to dinner. Because that was the night we had our surprise awards banquet.
Okay, here we go.
I have to tell this story.
I thought it was just dinner. We all thought it was just dinner.
I have to tell this story,
It's
right?
not just dinner.
So dinner at
Michelle's, right?
Daphne?
Dauphines, yeah.
Dauphines? Something like that. It's something that you can't pronounce, Glenn. You know it's fancy if you can't pronounce it.
Too fancy.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful French restaurant.
Delicious. And Jamie, the CEO, was gonna be there. And I'm like,
yeah.
I was like, that's when I knew. It's like, oh, this is serious. Oh, this is serious.
This was all day one also.
Yeah,
so this is briefing day. So the next day is when we're actually having all these meetings on Capitol Hill. And Jamie and some other executives also went and participated in some of those meetings too, which was really cool.
So let's talk about dinner. This is how fancy it was, Glenn. Walked in there. We had a cocktail. Mingle, meet and greet with everybody. And really meeting a lot of sellers, because there's like there's 21 sellers plus all like the eBay employees. There's different teams from AG as well, and stuff like that. And Jamie and all the global executive brand Also, Don Block was there, the VP. So I was like, it's like I had to be serious, Glenn. Like I had to like
raise your hand if you think Ken was being serious.
I'm raising my hand.
I don't see any hands.
Yeah. So.
Ken, you did great. You were serious.
We had assigned seating again. This is when I know it's serious when you have assigned seating. That means like they're trying to control the crowd, right? Well, lo and behold, surprise! I sat down. Jamie's in front of me.
We meet again, Jamie.
All right, and then to Jamie's left is our co-host Anna Packer, baby.
Oh.
Next to Jamie. Yeah. So I was like, what are the odds, right? And then it gets serious. They bring out ham and cheese. Real ham and cheese.
Really? You got ham and cheese? Oh, you're thinking like, okay,
I mean, the meats, like the charcuterie.
I was thinking of the oysters and like there was a whole bunch of
and
seafood.
it gets better. It gets better
Stepped on
because
your
they
line.
brought oyster. At that point, I was like, okay, this is the next level. Oyster, come on. And I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but I know fans people eat it. Anna,
so we had hors d'oeuvres. Yeah, actually, I had never had oysters before, and I liked them.
Do you like oysters, Glenn?
I don't eat that kind of.
No, did you eat before? Have you had it before?
No.
You don't eat seafood, right?
No.
Before? You didn't before?
Not, before a little bit.
Just shrimp, something like that, right?
Yeah. Keeping it simple, but.
Yeah, so we had shrimp, we had and Anna, there were multiple different oysters too, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were. It was very good. Anyway.
So,
it's like a lot of butter, garlic on top.
No, it was raw, bro.
Yeah,
raw.
just raw.
Raw.
Yeah, that's when I was like, ooh. Jamie didn't eat it. So I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, Jamie don't eat it. I don't eat it either.
Honestly, though, another seller to my left, Mara, was like an oyster expert. And I was like, because she's from the East Coast, Northeast. And I'm like, tell me everything. What do I need to know? So
what sauce should I dip it in or something like that?
Yeah.
But I think Anna can take over this because this is
okay.
Really
So after that,
it
became an award show.
Yeah,
not yet.
Okay. Oh, not yet. Okay.
Well,
this is when I acted normal.
I don't even know what I'm supposed to be describing right now. When was that?
When
were you normal?
Chatting.
Yeah.
When we were chatting with Jamie. You know,
well,
our homie Jamie.
Yes, Jamie was awesome. He is like such a nice and normal person. I don't know. I think a lot of people think executives and CEOs are like a different like breed of human or something.
CEO of eBay.
He's great. Totally great. We talked shop with him so much and, got to just openly discuss like stuff that we wanted to see like developed at eBay or like in the app or whatever. So we talked about all kinds of stuff with him, which was really fun. And he was interested. Like he was asking us, like, "All right, hit me."
And
with
he was
it.
taking notes, bro. He was taking notes.
Okay,
but that's. I mean, if you've gone to just seller events or eBay Open and things like that, you've probably heard over and over again, like especially about Jamie and like Adam Ireland, who was our VP for a long time. Like, oh, they just love talking to sellers. They just love talking to sellers. But like, actually, they love talking to sellers. Like, it really shows.
Yeah.
They're super interested in our experience and our perspective on things too. And it's just like, it's not just like pandering. Like, they actually want to know. So I really appreciate that.
So it was a really good dinner.
Yeah.
We had all our food. It's good food and all that. I was really trying to fast forward to dessert because the dessert it looked really good, and then they said, and they said like, oh, they rang the wine glass like, attention everybody, and Ashley spoke, which is Ashley Schillingsberg, the head of North America for government relations. I believe Kathy with Global was there, government relations, so she deals with Europe and all the other different countries as well. And then they handed it off to Jamie. And, well, since I'm a rookie, and a lot of people are rookies there, I saw Jamie holding a plaque, like a glass plaque, and I was like, oh, okay, like, I guess they give awards here or something like that. And then Jamie did his speech and everything like that. And that's when Jamie said, every year we give this award to a seller that is really passionate and very helpful with helping represent the sellers, and really participating in all the GR meetings and all the advocacy that they're doing, and they call it the 2024 Advocacy Seller of the Year. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think
of the year.
I think he said Seller Advocate of the Year.
Seller Advocate of the Year.
Black actually says something longer than that, but that was like this is what this award
and
is
then,
for.
Bro, I was like running into my head, who's gonna win this, right? Obviously,
what's going on here?
I'm a rookie, right? Like, I've never been really a part of GR until this day, and I was like, who's here? And I was like, oh, maybe here, maybe. And then Anna's first time too, so we were thinking like, maybe like it's kind of hard to win MVP in your rookie year, right? That's only like a few people have done that, right? Like what, Michael Jordan, something like that.
Yeah, Jordan. I mean, so you're up there.
So it's up there. Next thing you know, they said Seller Advocate of the Year, Anna Packer, bro. I got my phone out and everything like that, and Anna was like, and Anna was like looking at me. Anna was looking at me. Did you know about this? I said, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
I was like, and we were like, because like
I was so proud of you, Ken, for pulling out your phone, because JC wasn't even there.
JC wasn't there, right?
She wasn't with you on this trip, and she would have been all over that. Right. And I'm so glad you did, because I was in shock.
Had it.
I couldn't even think about documenting.
Ken was like Shaq at a
I was
contest.
Like, I was ready. Like I got my phone out, and then next
I was not ready. I was
so the room was kind of small, right? And then Jamie was in the front, and then Anna was shocked, frozen. And I was like, Anna, Jamie. Like, I was like going back and forth.
Like, I won? I won!
Yeah. I was like, what's going on? What's going on, right? And then Jamie said, and then Anna froze, and then Jamie was like handing the plaque. And
he was still talking, and I was like, I should walk up there and get it. Like, he's trying to hand it to me. At that point,
I would have just grabbed it, and that's the thing that we talked about really funny after, like, I guess we got to practice how to receive awards, man.
Yeah.
If we're going places. And then Anna did it. I took a photo of Anna, really funny one and a really serious one.
Yeah, the funny one's horrendous is what he means. And making the worst face ever, because I was just like shocked. I couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah, but really proud because Anna didn't cry. She almost gonna cry. She had high heels on, so ready to receive an award. And she gave a speech,
a small speech. Yeah, I felt like the timing of like shaking off being like slightly in shock was perfect, because I was like, I guess that's true.
You had enough time to write the script in your head, right? The script writer you are.
No, Ken, I was winging it.
Oh, you were? Okay.
I was winging it.
That was a pretty good wing in it. That was a pretty good wing in it.
I can seriously consider being like, no, I'm not going to say a few words. And then I was like, no, I probably can.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were shocked. You had no clue you were going to win.
No, I had no clue.
No.
And what a huge honor, because, I mean, like Ken said, like, I was a rookie too. I've been involved with GR for a couple of years. GR, government relations. But I had not gone on one of these fly-ins before. DC, like, I've been involved and cared about it, and anytime I meet another seller who I think would be like a great addition to the roster for government relations, I've like referred them. But it's just like it was pretty casual, and I do care about it, but I was just really surprised because I didn't feel like I had been there long enough to like warrant that, but I mean, but I understand, like, I humbly accept the award for sure. And I know that for myself, like, this is just the beginning of all this work for me. So it's pretty cool. It was very humbling. And I mean, I was just over the moon about it.
But also I would go to say, it's not how long you've been part of the team. It's the performance. It's the points. It's the rebound. It's, and you've performed well. I mean, as a matter of fact, Anna recruited me to GR. You know,
See,
so
there you go.
It's the best move I ever made.
Recruiting talent out here.
Yes,
That's right.
It's just kind
Just
of
out here scouting
LeBron-ish,
talent.
right? Like, hey, let's gang up. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we haven't told you yet, but you're already part of it. We put your name in the hat already. So we got a big three. Big three,
Texas.
you know?
So yeah.
Great state of Texas.
Yeah. I wasn't close to any Texas people. I would have said your line in front of them. Yeah, that was first night, and
Yeah, so that was just day one.
So
Yeah.
So you know, I mean, like, I think in day two, we can tell you pretty much how crazy it was, but I mean, all the meetings we can't talk about because it's all closed door meeting. They didn't even allow cameras and stuff like that because you know, we had people vlogging and filming. So the next day, you were with your group. We took a photo at the Capitol Hill. So
your
that's
same group
that's
from the table, the round table at the briefing day. Like,
Yeah.
you were with all those same people.
And you had a schedule. So we started at like 9 or like our first meeting, something like that. And it was a full day event. And that's, you know, Dawn was there. Jamie was there as well. And I didn't realize it. I thought Jamie was there for photo, but Jamie was actually going into meetings with us.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's when I saw the schedule the night before. I was like, oh, like Jamie's in 2 of my meetings in the afternoon. So I had, with my group, with Ohio and California, we had 7 meetings. So jam-packed. So it was meeting, lunch break until like we got done like 3:30 or 4.
Yeah, that's how mine was too. I had 6 meetings, and I was with Pennsylvania like for the day of meetings. So yeah, I think we had like 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, or 4 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, or something like that. But you know, some of them were for Pennsylvania, some of them were for Illinois, and it was jam packed. And then at the end of the day, this was kind of cool. As we you know, went along and talked about all those 3 issues that we discussed at the top of this episode. You know, obviously a huge focus of like multiple things here is like keeping counterfeit stuff off of platforms. And so eBay wisely orchestrated an authenticity guarantee reception and to basically demonstrate
free food and drinks, basically.
Yeah, free food and drinks, but like demonstrating how the authenticity guarantee program works and how the authentication process works for different types of items, which was super cool. So all day long we're talking about these issues,
and we were inviting them, right?
We're inviting them to the reception,
like some flyers.
Hey, when you get off work, come hang and have a drink and learn about this some more and mingle with us some more or whatever. And a lot of people came. It was really cool.
Yeah,
but that was like the end of the day, and our brains were just mush by that point.
Yeah, so like there were like sneakers, watches,
and
handbags, and kind of like clothing, streetwear, right?
Okay.
And they have like a live demo. It's like, oh, what's fake, what's real, and then you have to figure it out. So it was very cool. Yeah, they had
some of their like top authenticators were there, like flew in to show the process. And stuff.
So
it was really cool.
So that was very cool. It was just, man, everybody was just in, you know, formal wear, I guess, right? Because they just got off work, and they were like, you know, talking and everything like that. And then Jamie gave a speech, and at that point, like Anna said, like our brains were just like melting. It was just like so much going on. It's like I actually forgot to eat there. Like I was just, you know, buzzing.
Imagine.
Yeah, right. Like I didn't see some dessert or some snacks. But apparently there was some really good stuff there.
There was
that I missed out. And crazy enough, Glenn, this is right. Like it's not about like Anna and Ken all the time. I was there, and this guy came up. It's like, yo, Hustlebee. I'm like, and I look at my name tag. It's like, it's Ken. Like I don't have Hustlebee in my
I'm not Hustlebee today.
That's right.
It's Mr.
I'm Mr.
B,
Ken
right?
in the suit.
Mr. Ken in the suit, right?
Totally
and
unrecognizable.
And he's like, it's like, no, I watch Hustler Hacks, his YouTube channel, and he was like telling me how he was able to like resell during the pandemic and stuff like that. and he was just kind of like have a side hustle. He still have a side hustle,
Nice.
which is
Alright,
really
cool.
cool. And I was like, yo, this is cool. And then obviously the hustle bee, I hustled and introduced him to all the eBay execs that I could find. It's like, hey, like there's this YouTuber guy, and yeah, he does something. We get eBay name around. We get that new eBay name around. So that was super cool. To really um be in a place where at the end of the day, right, a lot of people are just trying to work, and also like trying to make an extra side hustle, and that's kind of like circle back, like, yeah, it's not just us, it's everybody. So if we get affected, everybody gets affected because
Yeah.
everybody's making online side hustles in some shape or form. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And now, a lot of these issues, like, we'll see in the next few months, like, this Congress is coming to a close, right? And so
Yep.
whether these issues progress further or get passed or get revised, like, before this Congress is over, we'll see. And it'll be interesting to see. Of course, we can never know the exact, to the little, I don't know, nth degree of influence, like what kind of an impact this had on, our policymakers voting one way or the other or asking for revisions or whatever. But, we'll see how it shakes out. And I think we can be pretty confident that showing up in force like that, 21 sellers, we had over 50 meetings across all of our meetings with all these different sellers in all these different states. And hopefully we have made some kind of an impact, or at least like put slowed people down a little bit long enough to really understand something they didn't understand before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not rush it, right? Not rush it, and really think about the people that get affected. But I think it was a really productive trip, and like I think after that really makes me care more about policies that affect us. It's not politics; it's policies, right? So that's how I start to rethink now. There are policies that could affect us if we don't voice out, and what better way to, because some of them are like, you call your rep, you mail your rep, but what better way of just meeting them face to face and really saying this to their face, and being human. So I think that was really cool. But I think that was kind of like in our side, right? That was me and Anna's perspective being part of eBay Main Street DC Fly-In. Don't leave yet, because we have a special surprise. We actually got to interview Georgiana with eBay Main Street. So she's going to verify if everything we said is true.
And more importantly, she's going to explain a little bit more about what GR, government relations, the Small Business Ambassadors Network, of which Ken and I are members within government relations, like what all of that means.
Mm-hmm.
And, if any of this is halfway interesting to you, like how you can get involved, and, you don't have to fly to Capitol Hill to be involved. Like there's a lot of ways to be involved. So we just wanted to bring her so you could hear it straight from the horse's mouth, as they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hear all of like what this whole program and focus that eBay has is really about. Excellent. Georgiana, can you tell us what the eBay government relations team is? Because I feel like a lot of sellers that I've met have never heard of it and don't know what it does.
I know, and honestly, like I have to sadly confess that a lot of eBay people don't know what government relations does. eBay, so that's a funny
mystery.
Yeah. Yes, we're like this like very like interesting team that most people did not hear about. So what we do is we make sure that we work with people on Capitol Hill, so congressmen, as well as on a state level, members of Congress on a state level as well. In order to kind of help shape legislation in a way that would not impact small businesses. So due to the eBay's business model, everyone probably knows that as long as our small businesses that use the platform succeed, eBay succeeds. So
yes,
our main focus will always be to represent the small businesses that are using the platform and make sure that we help shape legislation in a way that would be small business friendly and not impactful.
That's awesome. Yeah, Ken and I have gotten to see firsthand just the tireless behind the scenes work. I mean, we've seen a glimpse of it, really, of the tireless behind the scenes work of you and the whole GR team. And so, you know, we know you well and love you, and you're our fearless leader for the sellers that get to be involved with all this. But can you just tell a little bit about what you actually do on the team?
Sure. So I run a very small team, which is the seller advocacy team. So what we do is basically get to bring sellers in the government relations world. So we work with a lot of sellers that are interested in representing the seller communities and representing maybe sometimes like family members that have faced any kind of like legislative issues that they don't know exactly how to tackle that or how they can make a difference. We're there to kind of explain how you can make a difference, and you definitely can make a difference. And we are basically the link in between sellers and legislators. So we make sure that we translate what legislation looks like and how that might be impacting you. And we create that visibility in front of members of Congress, and not only so that they can understand exactly how that legislation will be impacting you, because every single legislation starts with good in mind. So every time that new legislation is being shaped, the interest is to make sure that we create a safer world for everyone out there. But sometimes there are a lot of issues that come when you try to regulate, because you forget that if you have X in mind, like there are a lot of casualties that will be impacted by that same legislation that's supposed to be helpful. So that's the moment when we come in and we bring in our sellers that are willing to speak on that, and we let them kind of give an overview of how that legislation will translate in their daily work or their daily business activities and so on. So we're basically the link in between like eBay sellers and legislation that is currently being shaped.
Yeah, it's very of the moment work. And I mean, for me, that's the perfect way to say it. Like, you guys are the link, because for me as a small business owner and a longtime eBay seller, I was totally disconnected from that world without you guys as the link. I wasn't even really informed about many of those things that, you know, were going through the legislative process until I heard about the government relations team. And, you know, I'll admit, like, at first I was really intimidated by that. I don't really like politics. It's not my thing. I don't pay a lot of attention to it or like always keep up with the ins and outs of how things are developing. And so when I first got involved, I became a member of S-Band, which I want to ask you about too in a second. But that was like what really opened my eyes. Like, wow, this is a way for me to be informed about what's going on without being like overwhelmed or sucked into like a political world that I don't want to be part of. So that was very helpful. But the S-Band stands for something. So I'll let you tell us what that stands for. But that was like, for me, the gateway to like understanding what all of this is really about. So what is the S-Band program? Because that's a huge part of government relations from the seller perspective.
Yes, that's the favorite program that we have ongoing in government relations. So
that's awesome.
Thank you. S-Band stands for Small Business Ambassadors Network. So there's a very select group of sellers. So we have to say that in order to be an S-Band member, you have to get vetted. So there's always going to be like an interview with an eBay government relations person that wants to hear exactly your story, wants to hear exactly how you've been doing on eBay, how has legislation been affected you, and if there's any kind of like worries that you might have and so on. We're there to hear them out and to make sure that we take notes, and if there's something that we might come in and start raising certain awareness on those topics in front of legislators, we're more than happy to do so. So S-Band has been like around for like probably 22 years. So
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, almost since the beginning of eBay. So it's been around for a really long time. And the way that we work is we make sure that whoever is, again, like you mentioned, like interested in just like hearing what's going on, like what legislation is being proposed or is in the works right now or prepared to be evaluated in the next few months or years or so on. We're the ones who basically like bring in the sellers, and just, even if you're not political at all, or if you don't have any political inclination, we're the ones who kind of make sure that we keep you in the loop. And if you have an interest in helping us out and helping sellers, because in the end it's helping us, it's helping you.
Exactly.
We're the ones who make sure that we keep you informed and we brief you and we kind of bring you a bit in our world so that you can advocate on behalf of yourself, on behalf of the sellers that might live in your community, or like I said, in behalf of your family members sometimes, because there's legislation that is impacting like sellers that sell occasionally on eBay. So not talking only about what we call like professional sellers. So the sellers that are very established and have a business on eBay. So I don't know if that answers your question, because I know I speak a lot.
Oh, no, this is all really great information. I think it's really cool. Like, I want, anybody listening to this to just take away, like, what does it mean? Like, what is SBAN? What's the point of it? I want to kind of ask you a follow-up question. Like, if someone were to fill out the application to join SBAN, like you said, everybody's vetted, but let's say that you become a member of SBAN, like, what's the involvement for just generally for SBAN members? Like, what actually happens? How do we stay up to date on all of this stuff?
Yeah, so it's actually a very good question. So the involvement is decided by you. So you can tell us, like, if you have time available, like, we're more than happy to have you like in meetings, and that can happen on like a state level. A lot of times you organize meetings with legislators on a state level, or sometimes we might need some help in Washington, D.C. So we might bring you over to Washington, D.C. to meet with your member of Congress, and not only in order to help us raise awareness. But if you're telling us, like, like, I'm a very busy person, like my business takes 90% of my time and I have to get home, I don't have the time to do all that. Like, we're more than happy to, I don't know, sometimes we will be asking you to send an email to your member of Congress, or we will be asking you to sign a petition or something like that. So the level of involvement is always decided by the seller itself, so the SBAN member himself or herself. We don't want to put any unnecessary pressure on anyone. But if you are interested, and if you feel like you want to do more, and if you want to be the one who stands out and comes to DC or has meetings on a state level, we're more than happy to support that and to organize that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, and just to speak to that a little bit from the seller side, I've been part of SBAN for a couple years now, and I have to say, like, as somebody who's not super interested in politics generally, you guys do an awesome job of keeping us briefed on all of the issues that, there is legislation that's in the works or could be in the works, or, is at different points in the process in Washington. And so, is multiple times a year, like maybe once a quarter, we kind of get an update about what's going on, and we get a chance to ask questions, and we get the chance to talk to our fellow SBAN members and kind of like put our heads together about all these things as they're developing, which is just really cool. And, Ken and I have been talking in this episode about our experience in DC, which is kind of like the high level of involvement end of the spectrum, like you were just talking about. But, until that happened, like for me, the experience of SBAN was just I'm showing up to these meetings, or, hearing about them after the fact if I wasn't available, and getting updated on what's happening with these policies or like potential policies. And it's really interesting. Like, you don't have to be, a political science genius to appreciate or understand like how it's going to affect you. And I really appreciate that, because I am neither of those things.
And I have to say, like, this is like fresh information. We're working on launching a newsletter. So our goal will be to have
great.
a newsletter that will go out at least once a quarter so that we can keep everyone in the loop on like what's going on, even if you don't have the time to attend the calls or you don't have time to be very involved in any other way. So we make sure that you are fully prepared and aware of what's coming. Because, I mean, all of us have seen like legislation is basically dictating the way that business is run, right?
Yeah.
If you have legislation that's helpful, your business is going to grow. If legislation is going to start pressuring you to do certain things or will put certain obligations on you, you will have to dedicate more time on making sure that you're compliant, and that gives you less time to expand your business. So we just want to make sure that everyone is at least aware of what's happening so that whenever something impactful comes along, you know how to deal with that. So
absolutely,
that's what we try to do.
I think selling online, so many times we hear about something that's already said and done and we're just reactive about it. And I know that before I was aware of SBAN, which then made me aware of all of these issues before, right? It gives me the chance to be proactive instead of reactive. And that's really awesome. Like, I don't know that any other platforms are really taking the time to include sellers on that part of the process. I think it's really a gift that we have the chance to be proactive about things that are seriously can impact our livelihood, our workflow, our business in general. So I think it's just amazing work that you guys are doing. And for 22 years, that is crazy. I really didn't know that. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this point. It's just like amazing to find out. So if anybody who's listening to this wants to get involved, obviously, the legislative process involves representatives from all 50 states, and, there are all these different congressional districts and things to consider. So needless to say, you guys are always looking for good sellers from basically everywhere. Yeah. So everybody is, eligible in that sense of like, there's not just like one or two states that you guys focus on. So if anybody from anywhere is interested in getting involved within the U.S., how can they?
Well, the process is actually really simple. If you go on Main Street, eBay Main Street, which is the main channel that government relations gets to communicate with everyone who's interested in our work. And if you go on SBAN, we will be linking the link to our conversation. You can simply fill in the application, and someone, like I said, someone on our end will probably get in touch with you. Not probably, will for sure get in touch with you. And make sure that we're going to have an actual conversation on the phone, or we will schedule a Zoom call. And then after that, we will make sure we get the level of involvement that you're interested in, and we will keep you in touch on everything that will be happening in the near future. So it's really easy. It's just making sure that you fill in the application, and then we will take it from there.
Awesome. I think that's a consistent experience, as a seller who's been involved, like I said, from kind of the low involvement end of the spectrum to the high involvement end of the spectrum. No matter where you find yourself and what your interest level is, government relations team does really make it easy. I know in DC, for example, where we were recently advocating, you guys did such an amazing job of helping us to understand our role. It was very defined, and we got to be ourselves and speak our minds on these really important issues on behalf of everybody else who's selling online. So thanks so much for making it easy. Even the application process is easy, which I am not shocked by either. But I just want to give you a chance. Thank you so much for being with us. But I want to give you a chance to also just say if there's anything else that you want sellers to know.
So we just want sellers to know that there's no such thing as a voice that is not going to be heard when it comes to legislation, and everyone's voice matters. So just get in touch with us, and we were more than happy to explain how we can make your voice heard and how you speaking on behalf of yourself and other businesses can actually make a huge impact. So end of day, like, we just want as many sellers as possible to be interested in working with us. And like you mentioned, that you don't have to be political. So that's the message that probably I want everyone to hear is don't expect you guys to be reading the newspaper every day on like what's going on in Washington, D.C., or keeping track on like what political party votes what. We just, the big impact is when legislators get to hear your stories, and when legislators get to hear the actual issues that small businesses are confronted with every day. That's the moment when we can make it all change, and we cannot do it without you guys. I think as long as, you know, like we can just join hands, we can make anything happen. So I think that's the main message.
Yes, I've seen that firsthand. And frankly, whether we are politically interested or not, this legislation is still going to affect our businesses. And that is a harsh reality sometimes. So, Georgiana, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast with you in DC, and I can't wait to see who is going to come out of the woodwork and join up with our advocacy efforts, because it's been awesome. We met so many amazing sellers and your whole incredible team. So thanks again so much for the time.
Thank you. And it was so nice seeing you in DC. Can't wait to have you back.
Oh, thank you. We'll totally be back.
So if you want to know more about eBay Main Street, they do have an Instagram page. You heard it from our perspective, and if you doubt what we say, go follow eBay Main Street. I don't know. Nobody doubts what we say. But follow them on Instagram at eBay Main Street to see all the things that are up and coming. Websites linked there and stuff like that. We'll put some in the show notes as well. So huge shout out to eBay Main Street. And also, because we are a partnered podcast with eBay, follow eBay for Sellers. There are going to be upcoming events that Anna's going to talk about. So make sure you tap in with eBay for Sellers on IG.
That's right. We will do our best to keep you guys updated about all these things too, but eBay for Sellers and eBay Main Street are great follows to just, like Ken said, kind of stay up to date. And if you want the really nitty-gritty details about all the policies we were talking about, that are the things we were talking about on Capitol Hill, like, you can find a lot more information about that too. Okay, so coming up, pertaining to eBay sellers, right? Summer Seller Check-In is actually right around the corner. It's June 6th. From 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. So we will be there hanging out, learning what there is to learn for a couple hours there. It's going to be awesome. I think there will be some really good stuff on the agenda for that. And I think they've actually already posted some of what the agenda is. Mm-hmm. So go register for that. And yeah, we'll see you in the chat on Summer Seller Check-In June 6th. And then also the day after that, which is my birthday, the up and running grant applications are going to be closing. So you got to get your grant application in.
$10,000, baby. Come on.
Yes. Plus, like, so much more
50
amazing.
People getting it, right?
Yes. 50 Ooh. Winners.
Like, odds are high, Glen.
Those odds are great. Get in there.
Anna won before. So, man, it's real. It's not rigged.
It's real.
No, it is real. It's totally real. But we're going to have the link for that application in our show notes as well. And then also make sure that you enter our epic giveaway, which we told you about at the very beginning of this show. Our winners will be announced May 31st. So just make sure that you are checking our show notes for any of these links. And then also, if you need anything, if you can't find something, reach out to us on Instagram, always Seller Club Podcast, and we will get you connected. And just for the record, if it hasn't been said already, if you're interested in, all of this policy stuff we've been talking about, advocating for small business, like, totally reach out to us. We will be happy to connect you. Yeah, with government relations. And, the more the merrier. Like, seriously, this is a situation where it truly is the more the merrier, and everybody's voice counts, and we want to help you to make it heard. So let us know. But yeah, until next time, I guess that's it.
All right, we are done. And that was episode 29. And going back, talking about eBay and DC and the interview. That's a wrap. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
See you.
Bye.